Hey, this your boy Town Biz. What's going on? You know who it is, you know what it is. All right, you guys, peep game. All right, man, I did a appearance on H Money DAZN's channel earlier. I did a guest spot. He pretty much gave me the floor. Appreciate that. At the end of the day, he gave me the floor, and I appreciate that. So, we had a live stream, and it was a good live stream too. I was on there for about 30 minutes, and we all exchanged games, and most of us agreed about the whole situation with Lomachenko and Devin Haney and some other things. Now, there is a rumor going around that the Lomachenko Teofimo Lopez fight is in serious jeopardy because you've been hearing things about Lomachenko possibly trying to lowball Teofimo Lopez, and Teofimo Lopez wants a certain amount of money. Now, see, this is what I'm talking about. Now, why is it when Bud say he don't want to take a pay cut, then people attack him and he get called this name, he get called that name, but then here's Teofimo Lopez, a non-black, basically doing the same thing, but there is no criticism. So there you have it once again with the inconsistent blackness. But nevertheless, I don't want to talk about that. You know, I did a segment with H Money DAZN. It was a real good segment. He gave me the floor, man. I appreciate that. He gave me the floor. He let me talk about some of the stuff that was coming up. But, as far as Teofimo Lopez and Lomachenko go, I do think Lomachenko has had reservations about fighting Teofimo Lopez. Whether Lomachenko think he can beat him or not, that's debatable. But at the end of the day, you have fighters, established fighters. They get to a certain point in their career where they feel like, hey, man, do I want to take a fight like that at my age or where I'm at now as a fighter? I mean, it happens with everybody, man. It's not that they don't believe they can beat the dude. It's just that, do they want that type of fight where they at right now and how far they're established as a fighter? It just happens with everybody. Sugar Ray Leonard was known for doing that stuff. You can make an argument that Floyd Mayweather did it. Manny Pacquiao, you can make a substantial argument that Manny Pacquiao has did it. Do we like it? No, because at the end of the day, as media, as fans, we want certain fights. And the hurdles that get through at us, it just makes you pull out your hair. And we talked about that. It's just like, hey, man, I can't get these type of rims for my car, so that's why I want to take the fight. I need these type of shorts. I need shorts made out of silk instead of snakeskin. So that's why the fight. I mean, you just hear excuses, and you just be like, come on, man. But the reason why I believe Lomachenko and Teofimo is going to happen, why would Bob Arum outsource another promotional company when both of these dudes are signed to Top Rank? At the end of the day, I despise it. I despise what goes on in boxing because it just pisses me off. As fans, we just want fights. I never seen this type of shit happen where out of the best possible 10 fights that could happen, you'll be lucky if you could get 3 of them made. And that's with guys that's in the same promotional bracket. I mean, at least in the 80s and 90s, for the most part, we got the fights that we wanted. It was very few fights that did get made. Sugar Ray Leonard versus Aaron Pryor didn't get. I've already told you the story behind that. We couldn't get Lennox Lewis versus Riddick Bowe because it just came across as Riddick Bowe just didn't want that fight. We just could. It took us years to get Mike Tyson versus Lennox Lewis. We couldn't get Mike Tyson versus Riddick Bowe. It was just fights that we couldn't get made. But most of the fights that we asked for got made. We got three fights with Lennox Lewis and Riddick Bowe. We got 2 fights with Lennox Lewis and Evander Holyfield. Say what you want to say about Evander Holyfield and Lennox Lewis. I will say this much. Those dudes would fight anybody. They would fight anybody. They would. So I give them credit for that. But what you got now is just appalling. But I do think that this fight will get finalized, and I think it'll get announced probably within the next week and a half, maybe 2 weeks at best. I just think that they will come to some kind of conclusion, because here's the thing. Well, if that's the case, if you can't get a deal worked out between, Teofimo Lopez and Lomachenko, then why don't the WBC order Devin Haney versus Lomachenko? And I'm going to talk about that later on. Because at the end of the day, we got to start holding everybody accountable, from the promotional companies to the fighters to the sanctioned bodies. Look, man, at the end of the day, I don't give a damn what color they is. If they ain't giving us a fight that we want, we got to call everybody out. I told you, I'm not going to give Al Heyman a pass just because he black, because at the same time, truth be told, Al Heyman has prevented fights from happening too. It's proof that he's talked fighters that was in his stable out of taking certain fights. And there were certain fighters that he was willing to let go somewhere else. Well, where you have certain fighters he won't let go. So like I keep saying, man, I know more than what I'm saying. At the end of the day, when people swear you to secrecy and, you say, hey, man, whatever you tell me is between me and you got to stand by that. Like I said, I know some stories. I know some shit. If I did videos about them, man, for real, it would just, I know what I'll be talking about. You know what I'm saying? I'm not on here to talk because I love hearing my voice. I'm trying to feed y'all information and at the same time give y'all my opinion about this boxing shit. Like I said, I went straight to Kenny Porter's house and he told me some shit off camera that I wish I could talk about, but unfortunately I can't. Just real talk, Y'all just got to understand something, whether we like it or not. And this is the honest to God truth. This is something that most reporters, content creators won't tell you. Boxing is a business. It's not a sport. It is a lot of favoritism, nepotism, racism. It is a lot of isms that go on in boxing. A lot. And I'm just the one that just want to tell y'all the truth, because keep in mind, they don't have no union for boxing. They don't have a pecking order. They don't, where Major League Baseball have a commissioner. There is no commissioner, because due to the fact that the fighters are from all over the world. The only thing they could do is have a world commission, and we already know they ain't gonna do that, because then they would start organizing certain fights and they would start demanding certain fights. And then what? You would see a lot of fights not happening, or you would see a lot of fighters getting stripped of their belts. Because to be honest with you, if there was a commission, because sometimes I'm on the fence about should the government get involved in professional boxing, because believe me, they want to. But then I'm thinking to myself, well, damn, what if they did get involved? Could we finally get the fights that we wanted? For real. Ask yourself that. Could we finally get the damn fights that we want to see? What if they started suspending fighters for not making certain fights? Start hurting them in the pocketbook. Start hurting them in the pocket, saying, hey, if you don't fight this dude, he the number one contender, you don't fight him, you're going to be fined or you're going to be suspended. Because that could be the only way. Or you start finding the promotional companies saying, hey, if you guys don't make this fight, if you promotional companies don't get together and make this fight, because according to this, according to that, if they had a system in place and saying, hey, this system says this dude is the number one contender for this belt, this dude is the number one contender for that belt, all these fights need to take place within a year, so we can have, if undisputed was so-called important, then they would be forcing these fights. It sounds good on paper, but undisputed ain't really that important to these fighters. Don't believe that stuff. At the end of the day, all fighters are about their bottom line, which is a bigger bank account and low risk fights. Fights with people that they're more confident versus others that they can beat. I'm just telling you right now, the days of people saying, hey, I want to fight the best out there, That's a bunch of baloney. They all doing it. They all trying to be businessmen. That's just fact. But getting back to the Lomachenko thing, I digress a little bit, but y'all needed to hear all this information so it could resonate and it ties into what I'm saying. At the end of the day, Lomachenko probably, if it was up to him, he would rather fight Tank. But due to the fact that Tank is not a top ranked fighter and he's a PBC fighter, and it would be easier to make Teofimo Lopez, well, and then based off the style and the fight style, this could be, Teofimo could have a difficult fight style for Lomachenko. I'm not saying it's impossible for Lomachenko to win that fight. I'm not even saying it's impossible for Lomachenko to beat Devin Haney. You never know what could happen. But I think Lomachenko doesn't have age on his side. Keep in mind, Lomachenko has had like an astronomical amount of amateur fights. Look, man, this dude then had over 400 amateur fights. Whether it's with headgear on or whatever the case may be, that's still fighting. That's still wear and tear. And keep in mind, Lomachenko turned pro, what, at 26? He hasn't been around that long. So that's a long time to turn pro. So he had to get started sort of like right away. And like I told you, based off that fighting style that Lomachenko has, I don't think that fighting style, it reminds me a lot of Roy Jones Jr. Except Lomachenko is a little more technically sound than Roy Jones Jr. because Lomachenko do got a nice jab. Now, do he have the blistering hand speed and the reflexes that Roy Jones Jr. once had? Absolutely not. But I just don't think that style that Lomachenko has is going to work well into his 30s. I said that about Amir Khan. What did I tell you? After Amir Khan hit 30, you started to see his performances drop dramatically. Amir Khan isn't the same fighter that he was in his early and mid 20s. He always had the hand speed, but he didn't have a good chin. The right punch, you could take Amir Khan out. And everybody knows that. Amir Khan had a lot of technical flaws, man, as a professional fighter. When he comes out of exchanges, his face is wide open. Doesn't have very good punch placement. He's a dude that strictly relied on that combination punching because he wasn't a break you down type of fighter. Every once in a while he would land a nice shot like the shot he landed on Maidana. Then every once in a while he would land some single shots on Devin Alexander. But Amir Khan was a dude that strictly relied on that combination punching, and everybody that had somewhat knowledge of boxing knew that was going to happen with Amir Khan. So, it is what it is. But like I said, that's what I see in Lomachenko. I really see that. I think Lomachenko, if he had a short list of the top 3 dudes he'd fight versus not fight, I think he would go with Tank. Then I think Teofimo. Then I think Devin Haney. Because like I said, Devin Haney, I see some Floyd similarities in Devin Haney. He's the closest thing I've seen to Floyd Mayweather since Floyd Mayweather. Will they ever be another Floyd Mayweather like him or not? Like I said, watch what I said in H Money DAZN's live stream. And I broke it down about Floyd, and I wish people would cut the shit about Floyd. But nevertheless, I do think the fight is going to happen. I'm almost certain. I'll be surprised if the fight doesn't happen. Because, okay, so if Lomachenko doesn't take the Teofimo Lopez fight, then what fight does he take? Answer me this. Is he really going to go out of his way to try to push for Tank? Is he going to wait out the Tank versus Leo Santa Cruz winner? Because then that fight is happening September, October? So that'll be, if Lomachenko doesn't get in the ring, that'll be a year since he last fought. And I'm trying to think, when was the last time Lomachenko fought? It's been a while. So keep in mind, guys like Lomachenko, they need to be fighting at least 2 times a year. So it will be a year since Lomachenko fought if he doesn't take the fight with Teofimo Lopez. And if they scheduling that fight in November, it will be a year since Lomachenko fought. So we'll see what happens, though. This your boy Town Biz. I'm out.